Hi, I'm Phillip Berman. I'm the owner of the Multihull Company. I also own Balanced Catamarans. I've been seeing a lot of speculation on the internet lately, people talking about what's going on in the catamaran market and etc. And the first thing I wanted to say is that most of us really don't know where things are going to go in the short term in the bareboat charter industry and also in the crude industry. How many people will actually be doing their charters in the BVI and the USVI? How many will cancel? How many people will move south? But in all of this speculation, I think it's really important to recognize that a number of people in Tortola and St. Martin lost their homes. Our broker, Alexi DiBucco in St. Martin, lost his home. He lost several of his customers' boats and his livelihood for a short period there. He's just getting back on his feet. Our broker, Carl Olivier in Tortola, also lost his catamaran and had to leave the island to take care of his family. And these are just two stories among hundreds and hundreds of others. And so let's not forget that that's what we're really dealing with here. In terms of the market and what we're seeing here at the Multihull Company, and we tend to sell about 100 catamarans a year globally, so the only thing that I can ever share with people is anecdotally is what we're experiencing here at our own company. So I'd just like to make a couple of comments. On the island of Tortola, most of the boats that were lost, or I should say the bulk of the boats that were lost, were the 40 to 52 foot, 4-cabin, 4-toilet bareboat charter boats. Dream Yacht lost a lot of boats. Catamaran Company lost quite a few boats. Moorings lost a lot of boats. And the question really is, how many of those people that lost their boats and get an insurance check will actually be ordering new boats? And I think that the number will be pretty significant of those that will not. Not necessarily because you know, they're traumatized per se, but because a lot of people that buy a boat into charter, they do it 3 or 4 years, they had their fun. And in this instance, they're probably going to be getting checks for their boats, many of them for more than their boats are actually worth. I think that also, when you have a loss of charter boats, remember, we are also having a loss of charter. So while we've got a much lower supply of these charter boats, we've also got, I think, fewer charterers. There will be people that will continue to charter in the BVI this year, but I think the numbers will be much reduced, and probably so for the next 2 or 3 years as the infrastructure has to get built back up and the services are built back up. I was just talking to the captain of Skimmer, our Balance 76 today. He's down in Village K getting the boat ready to try and move it to Grenada to do some topside repairs, and he said the island is still you know, really in a difficult way. And I think much of what's going to occur here is that without really strong government support in St. Martin and in Tortola, it's going to be really difficult for these islands to come back, because if you can't infuse capital into these islands quickly, it's a downward spiral, because already cab drivers are out of work, hotel workers are out of work. The entire economy was so tied to yachting because the offshore banking business had really slowed down over the last few years over what's called the Panama Papers. So it's going to require an influx of capital to get the infrastructure back up to where that revenue can start coming back in, you know, for charter. So we lost a lot of bareboat charter boats. In Tortola, in the winter, in the hurricane season, we tend to have fewer what I call cruisers. A lot of the cruisers go south to Grenada, what have you. So the owner version catamarans of the typical cruiser, well-equipped, non-charter boats, there weren't as many of them lost there. Not to say there weren't plenty of them lost, but percentage-wise, not nearly as many. And those typically tend to be very sought-after boats on the private market for retired people wanting to go cruising. So in terms of a loss of supply there, we didn't really lose that many of those boats. We did lose a lot of the big boys, the 55 to 65 foot luxury crude charter cats, because Tortola is a super popular market. A lot of people leave their boats there. Many of them were at Village K, some were at Nanny K, and we really lost quite a few of them. In Village K alone, where Skimmer was, gosh, I think there was a Lagoon 620, a Privilege 585, a Voyage 58, a Lagoon 56. I mean, a lot of big boats were either capsized, destroyed, etc. But here again, the question becomes, all right, so we've lost a lot of these charter boats, but how many charters have we lost? When will that market come back? How many will want to move their boats? How many people will want to ask if their charters can be moved south to the Grenadines, et cetera, et cetera? These are all unanswered questions, in my opinion, and they're not going to shake out for quite a while. So what we are finding here at the Multihull Company is a lot of our buyers that lost boats have asked us to go and find them replacement boats right now. So much of what we're doing now is helping our buyers that lost boats find replacement boats. Oftentimes, if they love the boat they had, getting a similar boat. And that's really a bit of a challenge, because prior to the hurricanes, we'd already had, I think, a diminution of supply, especially in that 40 to 50 foot owner version catamaran that the retired couples tend to want. And we had a small supply of boats between 2007 and 2011 during that global financial crisis. So there was a gap of really nice late model boats during that period. So the numbers of new boats were just starting to build up at this time. And then at the same time, and this is the biggest forgotten thing by a lot of consumers in the market, Americans in particular, is that over the last 4 months, 3-4 months, the dollar has gone from, it was down as low as 102 to 104 to between 118 and 120 to the euro. So right there, catamaran prices were moving up simply because all those boats that are listed by Europeans online globally, they're immediately adjusted into dollars. And therefore, well, it's like if you started looking at boats in the Mediterranean, the prices on the boats in the Mediterranean, which were great for us just last year, are now not so great at all. And so that's making those boats less attractive. So what does that mean? Well, what it means to me is supply and demand in our market shifts around. And the consumer that's looking for a good value is often prepared to buy boats in different locations. I mean, in the history of this company, when the Australian dollar was really strong, lots of Aussies would be buying boats from us. When the euro was really strong to the dollar, Europeans were buying boats from us. So what we're seeing now is that Europeans are starting to take an interest in some of the boats that we have. We're seeing fewer Americans taking an interest in the boats in the Med. But right now, with the supply being as limited as it is, I think a lot of sellers are, kind of holding out on their prices. But there should be no rush. Like, I always find it troubling when people suggest, oh, you've got to buy, it's the time to go. And, it all sort of feels a little bit hustly to me. And I always caution patience to my own buyers. And I do think we're in this sort of unsettled period that's going to last for the next 3 to 6 months. That's just what it's going to be. But I will say that the issue right now for us, at least at my company, is not really having buyers that want to get cats or replacement boats. It's really finding them boats that they're really drawn to, attracted to at prices that they feel, are fair. If you're a buyer for a catamaran right now, you just want to be patient. You can, if you're interested in a specific type of boat, you're going to want your broker to provide you with the recent sold comparables for that type of boat and to explain to you how those variances in prices existed between the boats based on their condition, their configuration, their year, and their equipment. Okay? I do think that probably the comp values that we had reported last year will remain the same this year, if not slightly higher, simply because of the loss of supply, but also more the rise of the euro. The rise of the euro was happening well before these hurricanes existed. So I think these hurricanes are going to have a huge effect, obviously, on tourism and the charter market in particular. Here at our company, we've typically focused on liveaboards, cruisers, voyaging couples, and performance cats. So it's affected our company a little less than some of the companies that are, quite focused on the charter market. At the same time, both of our brokers in Tortola and St. Martin have been displaced, and they're not really sure when they'll be able to get back, to full speed. And that's just been unsettling for all of us in the industry. In any event, be patient. There's no stress. You're supposed to get a boat to go sailing, to have a good time. When the right cat comes along, you'll find it. I'm spending a lot of time online looking at boats, talking to customers about boats, and just cautioning patience. It's easy enough to make an offer on a boat and find out, a price that works within your budget. There's going to be a way to go sailing, and so just chill out. Don't worry about it. Things will get better. They always do. Remember, we only beat to windward for short periods of time generally. We may be beating to windward here for the next 2 or 3 months as things settle out, and I think that in the islands they'll be beating to windward here for the next 2 to 3 years, but they're going to pop back. The charter market will pop back, and we're all going to get back out in the Caribbean and enjoy the beautiful waters and the lovely people that we came to know. Thanks a lot. See you on the water soon.